Good morning, if anybody's out there. Oh, let me close the door. Hey, bud. Let's start the show. You gonna be on today? Hey, Carol. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Diana. Maple bacon. That sure sounds good right now. I like to have a big old, foot long, or long john, or whatever you call them, where you're at, covered in maple bison. I hope everybody is well this morning. Going to make breakfast sausages and scrambled eggs this morning, and look, ooh. Hang on a minute, I gotta make sure who's dinging me here. In case it's my wife. Aha. I was trying to download a book. Got a free book a while ago. And I was just checking, make sure it wasn't from Mark. Oh my. Anyway, how is everybody? Mike been thinking about you. Brenda saw a couple of Airstreams for sale this last couple of days. I told her she needed to send them to you. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you've already found one. Give Mark a minute to show up. I think he's going to be here. I'll probably jump in fairly quick. Because guess where we're going again today? You bet. Come on. Well, I don't know where you're going. Wait a minute. I might have missed something there. I better. Oh, I haven't found one yet. Can we come with you guys? Talking to the owner about his Airstream. Waiting on more details. Aha. That's what I need. I need you guys to come ride with us up and look at some houses. Maybe you could bring us some good luck. Because in the last little bit, we've not had any good luck. I don't know if Tina's here or not. I don't know if anybody else will make it, but maybe Kay. We thought we had a house. We thought we had something lined up perfect. Again. Only this time, we got shot down by somebody with lots and lots of money that apparently just offered a big old sum of cash and walked away with it. House hunting sucks. We are struggling to find any. Maybe I should say I'm struggling to find what I want. Brenda might have found something she likes. She's found a couple that she kind of likes. And usually when I find something I like, it's something she likes too. But I don't know. Maybe she would. Maybe she'd do better without me. I told her she might all just leave me home, take the girls, and just find something. Then I'd just move in. We found this house, big old country farmhouse, sitting on didn't have a lot of land within an acre or so, and but it looked out over fields everywhere, all around fields. There's a couple houses on the hill with it, but it was just woods and fields for as far as you could see. Yeah, it's going to buy it. It's probably going to go in there and change it. Who knows what he'll do to it. It may not look the same when he's done. You never know. They could tear it down and start over again. I've heard of that. I don't think Brenda and I've slept. I know she hasn't slept in a couple of days. We got really excited, and yesterday we were just counting down until 5 o'clock. That's when we were supposed to find out, if we got the house or not. And 5 o'clock rolled around. 5:15 came around, and I don't know if we got word from our realtor or Brenda contacted him. How can I not get this right today? And he gave us the bad news once again. It is a never-ending struggle, and the struggle is real. So I don't know what we're going to do. We can't seem to find anything local, close, because everything here is really high. And I really think the girls think I'm crazy, but I want to move out of town. I want to finally get somewhere where we're not just hemmed in by neighbors all over. But I don't know. Maybe I have to give that up. They're out there. We just can't seem to pick them up. Well, I keep thinking that too, Carol, and I keep hoping that's the case. And Brenda has said that too, and we really thought we had found it. That house, the house we looked at this week, that we'd kind of been looking at it for a little while, and I don't know, really liked it. It had a lot of things we wanted. I think the only thing it didn't really have was an attached garage, but it did have a garage building or a shop building that I think would have worked as a garage. I think it just needed to be cleaned out and maybe have a door put on it, on the an up and down door. But the other side was a shop, and that would have worked just fine. That would have worked. So I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully. So sorry if I sound a little grumpy or down this morning. I had a last night. I wasn't fit to be tied. I think Brenda. I think I drove her into tears. I mean, not just me, but the fact that I was so upset and so down and out. And you guys are probably hearing way more about me than you want to hear. So, the best news I got this week was we pulled into a Pals, which is I got a Pals on my thumbnail, and I was going to mention that when I got to it here in a minute. I got a slide too. Is drove through and pulled around to get our what do they call them. But no, we got hot dogs this time. Hot dogs, and they call them Frenchy fries, and a couple of, in this case, no, not Dr. Pepper, Big Tea. They're famous for their big cups of tea. And my mom used to go to Pals and get tea, some days, and she'd drink on it all day long. But anyway, I pulled around to the window, and the young guy in the window, I don't know how old he was. He's late teens or early 20s. He said, "My goodness, man," he said, you got the how do you put it? An incredible beard." For some reason, he really liked my beard. He just kept going on about my beard and how he couldn't grow one there where he worked, but when he could, he was going to try to grow one. He said, "It'd probably take you a long time to get one like that." I said, "Well, it took me a long time to get one like this." But I think that's the first time anybody's ever said my beard was, any good. I've kept it all these years, but it's always kind of disappointed me because it's just not, real thick and like a lot of men. But some of us get it, and some of us don't. But I must have had it rocking that day because he was just. And if Brenda gets on, you can ask her about it. She was. That's why I was trying to remember the word, and I think he used incredible. I think that's what he said. Yeah, rocking. Yeah, I was rocking my beard. I hope Mark makes it today. I talked to him. He's called me a couple times this week because he's been following the house hunting saga also, and they knew how upset I'd been about the whole thing. And I'll be honest with you guys, that sometimes I can go like hell and nothing seems to get me like that, and sometimes I can just hit rock bottom, and I guess I get depressed and just I get mean and hateful and don't want to talk to anybody and don't want to see anything, and I feel like everybody's out to get us, even my kids. Jennifer, our oldest, the other day, she said, "You guys need to get over this living in the wilderness stuff. You're too old for that." She said, "You're not Mark Zorns. You don't have to live in the middle of nowhere." And that really ticked me off. And needless to say, she and I've not spoken since then. It just made me mad, her trying to tell me what to do. And I can appreciate some of that, but her idea was that we move in right down the street from her. And I guess then we could just drop by and see her anytime we, wanted to. I don't think that's going to happen. I guess it was a good thought on her part. I'm sure she didn't mean it the way I took it, but I took it that way nonetheless. Tim, she's your daughter. Her best interest is in you guys. Yeah, maybe, Mike. It probably is, but yeah. Jen's a funny girl. She's got too much me in her, for one thing. I think. Might be her own. She's trying to look out for you guys. Well, she is, but she stuck her nose in it at a bad time. I'm just telling it like it is, guys. Kelly, on the other hand, probably feels the same way, but she's a little bit more easygoing. I think she understands a little bit better. I think Jennifer understands. I think she just is probably trying to take care of us, but she's just funny about doing it. Imagine you and Brenda producing a daughter with strong opinions. Yeah, imagine that, Carol. I don't know where she came from. She's too much like you. Yes, she is, Mike. I'll admit it. She's always been that way. She's fiery too. I mean, she's got the, I won't say a temper, but I will say that she don't back down. And if she feels like she's right, she's right. And she ain't afraid. She ain't afraid to stand up and tell you about it. She's definitely of our loin. There are no two ways around that. But anyway, come on, Marcus. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to pop my slides up. Well, at least Teddy won't give you any advice. No, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you something. And speaking of the devil, did you see his paw? You want to stand up and say hi to Carol? Huh? And Mike and Diana and whoever else is in here now. Guess that's about it. Oh, well, I'm down to 3 viewers. Hell, that's bad. Who did we lose? Everybody? Mike and Carol? You're the only ones left? Who's in here, guys? It looked like the number fell way off. Well, Maple Bacon's still here. Diana G's still here. I think Carol's still here, and that's it, and me. I guess maybe that's all we've had. Number 6 popped up, but I don't know if I trusted that or not. Not me. You're not here, Carol. Oh, that's sad. I was hoping you were. And on top of everything else, I've been hurting a lot like last few days. So I guess getting in and out of the car and riding, a lot, and Brenda throwing me around the car when she's driving, I guess it's just made me sore. And I fell asleep yesterday on the couch when the frustration. I'm like a little boy, I get mad and then I get cry. I didn't cry, but I cry, and then I just put myself to sleep like a little boy would. I guess that's what happened because I fell asleep on the couch and I was in an awkward position, and I woke up and my hip was just absolutely screaming. I couldn't move. And Brenda came down here and, she was trying to talk to me and I was just mean. I was mad. I was hurting. And I just didn't want to talk about any more houses. I didn't want no houses. But houses we got. It's me. It's Ernest T. Or in this case, Brenda P. You could do that. It's me. It's Brenda P. I'm sure no one in here would make fun of that. I was just telling them what a happy soldier I'd been this week and how nice I'd been to you, and how you got mean and made me cry. Oh, I said something about pulling up my show and getting it ready here. If I recall. You guys entertain each other for a minute. Yay. Okay. Excuse me, guys. I'm being extremely rude here this morning. Not gonna really start the show, but I'm gonna go ahead and fire it up and put it on here for now. And hopefully Mark will pop in a minute. I got a song stuck in my ear, an earworm stuck in my head. Keeps going round and round. I keep catching myself whistling it or attempting to. Oops, didn't mean to do that yet. Of course, that's no surprise, is it? I'm upstairs crying. He's downstairs fuming and crying. Yeah, that's us. Don't we sound like a lot of fun to be around? Yes, I certainly could. Carol, and I started to do that. We stopped along the road the other day when we were out looking at houses, and there was a house that was up near my good friend Steve Hensley's house, where he lived before he passed away. And he and his brother had this dream of creating an airport live-in community there. And his brother kind of made that happen after he was after Steve had passed. Unfortunately, he had a brain cancer that couldn't be fixed, and I miss him. But anyway, he got me into aviation, and one of the things that got him into aviation was the man named on this sign. And I may have to get it on my screen here. Hang on just a minute, so I can blow it up a little bit. And if I do this, you're probably going to be able to. You might be able to read it anyway. Anyway, the sign says Edward Chalmers Huffaker, born July 16th, 1856, died January 3rd, 1936. He was 80 years old. Said he was born near Sevierville, Tennessee. Edward C. Huffaker earned degrees in mathematics and engineering. Between 1890 and 1902, while experimenting with gliders, he discovered the principle by which a curved wing surface generates lift. His work formed the foundation of modern aeronautics. Huffaker worked with Dr. Samuel Langley at the Smithsonian, the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk, and Octave Chanute here in Chucky. And Octave Chanute was from Chicago. So he did work with him. They exchanged a lot of letters, and Octave Chanute did come down. If you never heard his name, Chanute was one of the early major players in aviation. And like I said, he worked out of Chicago. There was I guess, sort of an early version of the space race. Remember when we have to leave by 12:30 at the absolute light? Yeah, we probably need to leave before that. Well, I don't know. Is there a time change, babe? Let me double check my schedule here. We probably ought to go. I need to be off by 11 noon so we can get out of here. I'll expect you to be down here and ready to go, I guess. Anyway, and I have a book. And I was thinking about reading some of that book on here too. But I have a book written by my friend Steve and his wife. Yes. Hey, John, welcome in. Chanute Air Force Base. Oh, you were stationed there, huh? Cool. May, June, November 79. Anyway, I have a book called The Unwanted Assistant. And it's all about, well, it's about Huffaker, who's just an almost unknown person in the avionics or aviation world. But he was a groundbreaker in many ways and made, after all this happened, he was responsible for building, I think, the first operational, really basic, but first operational autopilot, which a lot of small planes that if they have autopilots at all, or then did, were still being used when I worked on them, or same system anyway. And but he lived on a big hill in Chucky Doak or Chucky, Tennessee, and they had the Huffakers had this big brick house, and they lived way up on a high hill there, which they could see all around. And Huffaker used to sit up there with his telescope, binoculars, and a theodolite, which is just like a survey tool. Is Tina and Chuck here? Did I miss them? If I did, good morning. I hope I didn't. Did I? Oh, yeah, there's Tina. On our way to a birthday party, so we're in the car, but still watching. Well, good. Drive safe. Oh, damn it. Anyway, Huffaker, while all this was going on, there was a couple of different people or groups that had a prize money out there. First, one of the reasons why the Wright brothers were pushing to be the first was because there's either $75,000 or $100,000 prize for being the first. Whoever made the first powered manned flight would get, be paid money. And so that was one of the reasons there was a lot of, it helped spur the race to get into the air, I guess you could say. And all these guys had more or less different ideas. All the main names like Chanute and Huffaker, not Huffaker, but Chanute and Langley and the Wright brothers, of course, all had their own ways they thought it would be best to do things. And the Wright brothers weren't all that educated. They certainly weren't engineers or anything. But they worked on bicycles, and that's how they got started. But Huffaker used to sit up on that hill and he watched and observed birds. Particularly, he watched buzzards. I was trying to call them about vultures and how they could float and how they moved their wings and rocked their wings. No, we haven't, Tina. We're still working on it. It's about to drive us both crazy, I think. Who knew it was going to be this hard around here? Anyway, and he took that information, and that's how he figured out the curve in the wing and how to make lift. And he also figured out how to make control systems using ailerons. The Wright brothers did wing warping. That's how they finally figured out to control their airplane, the Wright Flyer, and wing warping was kind of a crude way to do that. But they weren't they stuck with that for a long time because they were sort of like that. Once they discovered something, they figured that was the only way to do it, so they wouldn't really listen to anybody else. But anyway, during that time period, Huffaker was working with the Smithsonian, and Langley, the guy who was running the Smithsonian aviation effort, basically sent Huffaker to Kitty Hawk to work with the Wright brothers because they were getting advice and stuff from them too. But he basically sent him there to kind of keep an eye on things, see what they were up to. And he took a model, and what was interesting about the model that he took, a glider, I don't remember how big it was. It was pretty good size, but it wasn't for a person to ride in. It was just a test vehicle to, test the wing shape and all that. And when he got down to Kitty Hawk, they had I don't think he had an indoor shed yet to put it in. They had a big storm. It messed up the glider, so they never were able to fly his glider. And he worked with the Wright brothers for a while, and I think he got kind of fed up with it. I don't think they liked him very much. He wore a bit. I mean, he was an educated man. Hillbillies in Tennessee. Where have you heard that before? And but he wore bib overalls all the time. I think he chewed tobacco. He was a school teacher, and they just didn't approve of that. He wrote in one of his letters, and my buddy Steve had a bunch of his letters, and he wrote in a letter that he thought the Wright brothers were kind of mamby-pamby a little bit because they always had to have freshly clean clothes, and they always had to have a new starched collar, white collar to wear. And anyway, it was just a small little blip in the history of aviation that nobody knows much about. So they put that sign up finally down there, and we drove by it the other day, so I wanted to take a picture of it. And I think fabric must have reproduced when you weren't looking. You think that's what it is? You think that's what it is, Carol? I'd like to know if that was true or not. Now we're back on permission slips. We got to be careful, Brenda, what we talk about. Reproduction efforts and procreation, that sort of thing. We got to have, everybody needs a permission slip for that. How was the food at that restaurant? Well, let me tell you about that now. Pal's is a local. It's the guys on Oak Island show talk about. Is a local construct. These buildings, all their restaurants, most of them are simply drive-throughs. They've been around for quite a while, but they started out in the northeast part of the state. I believe they might have even started in Southwest Virginia, but they've got this burger and hot dog and a drink on top. And they made a couple shows over the years about, fun places, weird and strange or different kind of buildings you might see when you travel. And because of the buildings. And I like their food. I like their hamburgers, and their French fries are pretty good. I mean, other than that, they're a basic burger place, but they're pretty good burgers. They're always fresh, and but we don't have them down here. They hadn't got this far down yet to Knoxville. So we were in Greenville, and we drove by one the other day, and I convinced. I've actually been in there 3 times now while we've been looking for houses or been by there. The girls took us to one. Well, they were up there with us looking at the first house because that's when we were thought we were going to get it. And we took Brad up there to look at it, and everybody went. That was on a Saturday or a Sunday, so everybody was off, and so we all went to a Pal's, and it was a set down Pal's, which I had never seen before. And but they make just good homemade, like homemade burgers, and their hot dogs aren't bad, and they got kind of chili I grew up on, basically, which was I liked. We can't buy that kind down here anymore, and their French fries are always hot and fresh. So, I mean, it's just fun. I like to go there and get something to eat, probably because haven't. You can't do it down here, so therefore I want to jump right in there. So that's why I put that on there. That was a couple of the fun things about our house hunting this week. Let's talk so I can talk about Edward Chalmers Huffaker again, and I think I mentioned him before. One of my first shows, I believe I talked about him, and I've got the book. If I haven't already packed it, it's over there on the bookshelf. But I have packed some of my books, so you guys might be proud to know that I've actually done some packing myself, and I'm terrible about that. Well, I don't know if Mark's going to make it. I can't wait too much longer. I hate to do this show without him because I think he would really enjoy it because it was something that neither one of us really knew anything about. You bet you, Mike, we will, or you will. So anyway, I'm just gonna go move on here a little bit. So all the usual stuff there, guys. Hit that button. Subscribe. I don't think anybody in here hasn't, but and leave me a comment. And there's those signs in that restaurant blown up bigger. I about got run over while I got out to take that picture. I'm not very fast anyway, and suddenly there was traffic on the road, and I wobbled across the road. I thought one lady was going to catch up to me, and then of all things, I dropped my cane while I was standing there taking a picture, and Brenda thought I was going to fall head first into the street or something then. Anyway, I've already talked about those two pictures, so now you guys know about Pals and you know about Mr. Huffaker. So, I was going to talk about pomology, and that is the analysis of human conflict and war, particularly international war. Never heard that word, so I learned a new word. Pomology. For people like me that can't pronounce big words. And I put this photograph in at the bottom or this panoramic photo. I saw a show on Science Channel the other day, and it was all about the world's oldest battlefield, they think, or thought. I don't know if that's still true, but it was a pretty recent find. They actually made the first discoveries there in, I think, 1996. A guy found, I'll show you the bone he found. And he was just an amateur archaeologist. And he was out just wandering this river bottom. I don't know what he was looking for, but I guess they could find arrowheads in their fields too. I don't know, but sometimes I forget that they use bows and arrows, just like over here. But this is just a field looking down. This was part of the battlefield, and it was all in this lower bottom here. And this photo's in the wintertime, and the water's up and it's flooded. But in the summertime, it's not like that. And I'll show you another picture of that in a minute. But this was the first really major battlefield that they have found so far in Europe or the world. Now, not that people didn't fight and have conflicts, but this one involved hundreds and maybe even thousands of people at one point. That made it very significant. And most people didn't even believe it was real they just couldn't believe what they were finding. It is located up here in this top corner of Germany. I've got two maps here. This one shows it the best, the green one. And it's in an area of Germany. It's over near Poland, and it's right up here in the corner. And I believe the shipping port or the ocean port in Poland, Dansk is in this pocket right here, or in that cove or bay, whatever. And it's pronounced Tolens Valley. And right here is Berlin, so that gives you a reference point. I don't know, Tina, did you live in Germany for a while growing up? I can't remember. I know you were in Europe or France. So this is what that river looks like today. when it's not in flood stage. And it's just fields and hay pastures and meadows, and there's cows in it over on that lower picture down here. And, it doesn't look all that special. But boy, did it turn out to be a big surprise. And this is an artist rendering up here at the top. A guy named Dan Davis he's written some fictional books about that time period, and he included or used this battle as an example of things that happened. And one of the things that made this really unique was not only was it, they think it's the oldest they found so far, but it was also part of the Bronze Age. Heat on in the car. Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't hear it hit the floor. Are you really okay? Shelf didn't fall, did it? Yeah, it was good, Mike. Brenda and I went to see it at the theater. I thought it was an excellent movie. It was, there was it covered a lot of territory, and, the amount of time it was on, I don't know how long it was. It seems like it was almost 3 hours, or at least it was well over 2. Anyway, this was a Bronze Age battle. So they found lots and lots of weapons from that time period, which they'd never found before. Well, we knew about some things. We didn't know about all the things they found there, nor did we know that they were up in that part at that point in time in history, that there would have been such a thing in this part of Europe. And I suspect it was a Viking, Nordic / Eastern European kind of a mix. And I'll show you just in a minute. One of the key things about this whole battlefield, and one of the things that made it important, was, obviously it's flat, so it's ease of movement, but there was a big causeway and road that came through there, and actually a really pretty sophisticated bridge that crossed the river. And so they suspected that it had a lot to do with trade goods, or the trade routes of that time period. I think you meant, well, I'm not sure what you meant. Did they burn part of it down? I can't remember now, Mike. You said printed. And I know that's not right. Anyway, I'll keep talking. You keep typing or talking. So anyway, so they found all this stuff, and I've got a few pictures of those things. And this is just another picture of it that I wanted to explain, because this shows what they now believe are the some of the trade routes that led to this whole thing happening. These blue ones are trade routes in and out of the Baltic states and Italy and Greece and Turkey, and they went to the north, and then there seems like there was a break, but then they went on up, and then there's this, I don't even know how to pronounce that one. Unitas culture was in this area. They dug ore out of the mountains, which is probably copper and that sort of thing. Burnt parts of it down. Yes, they did. Then the Nordic maritime routes coming in from the north, and that was at that time, this time period, which was 3,800 years ago, 3,800 years ago at least. So 1800 AD, no, BCE. And so, these things were all important. That tin mines over here in France and Spain, and were important because you mixed that with copper ore, and that's how you got bronze. Now, bronze, they thought bronze was probably pretty cool. It was the hardest substance they'd learned to make and work with. But bronze is not super. It doesn't hold an edge. It dulls quickly. It bends. It chips. It does a lot of things, but it also will, bust up wood, and people shooting or swinging at you with wood clubs are not as effective as, somebody with a big sword. So this is another advantage of, new military tactics and weapons that devastated another group. It's sort of like Hitler moving across Poland in World War II. His blitzkrieg, he had dive bombers and tanks and fast moving troops, and Poland was still had horse cavalry in a lot of places, and just didn't have that kind of mechanized machinery. They had a fine tradition of military tradition, but they just didn't. They were outclassed. The Amber Road that went down into like I said, the Balkan states or these Eastern European areas. Anyway, all this was important, and that's a key thing because in the end, they think this trade had a lot to do with what happened. And this is just basic. This picture on the right is just basic Bronze Age battle gear. This guy obviously got a bow and arrow. It's hard for me to say if that's an English type longbow or it's a slightly different version. They don't look as long as a longbow to me, and they look like they're built differently. And I know this is just a drawing, but the other ones they found are a little bit different. They hadn't quite reached that level of technology, but they were still effective. And then they think there was a few people maybe riding horses, but they're not positive of that. The last thing I read said that they're not sure they did. They used them to pull carts and haul equipment or food or trade goods, but they didn't necessarily fight from them like cavalry. And so they're not sure about this. But this guy's got a lance, and I have a story about that. And this guy up here, he's girded his loins with a big bronze blade and some kind of hide leather. Battle fashion, the clothing of the man. Leather belts wrap around garments fashioned like kilts. They may have worn felted caps or bronze helmets. I thought they were going to say this thick leather was used to try to prevent injuries. Anyway, this is where it happened at. So all these things were actually going on. And it's just like here, over the time we have discovered that, about all the Native Americans, even if they lived in the East, had things like turquoise. Well, turquoise comes from the Western United States, and certain flints only come from certain parts of the United States, and that was all over the country. So they traded, they moved around and they traded. That's what we do. This is what started it all. This was the first bone that the guy found along the riverbank, and he wasn't sure what he had until he saw this. Well, he still wasn't sure what he had at that time. But this bone has an embedded flint arrowhead of the style used during that time period. And sorry, guys, my nose is itching today. I took a sinus pill. For that, I hope. Brendan, we want to take some water with us today. I need to hydrate. Instead of just drying myself out with coffee. Anyway. Oh, yeah, this would have hurt. I mean, think about somebody jabbing a stone point into your knee joint. I mean, if you don't think that would have felt bad, then you've never had a knee hurt, because that just about makes me grimace in pain right there. But that's the bone and the arrow tip that started it all. And it's fascinating too, because scientists can now take this bone or a bone like this and tell what kind of healing has started to occur, kind of tell how long these arrowheads were in these bodies or in these bones when they found them. And at first they thought, crap. At first they thought that, this battle might have lasted over a long period of time, or, some of these people may have just happened to end up where they did and then died. But over time, they've looked at these wounds and figured out, no, most of them, once they went down, they were dead. Most likely at the hands of their opponents, because that's what was going on here. This was that causeway I was talking about. They've unearthed, this is the trench they're digging to. I just love the way archaeologists make everything flat and square. They're very methodical. And they found all this structure in the ground that deep. And all these posts and things are what held up the bridge and the causeway through this swampy, damp, wet area. Probably could get through there even when it was flooded. And then they, in the video, which is called the oldest, I think it's the world's oldest battlefield. They've linked this to a road that went on up the hill. And if you are what is the name of that show, Brenda? If you're an Oak Island fan, the TV show, they discovered a road on the island that very much matches what they think was in this area. So it dates it back pretty far. I mean, this style road the style road they put in here was common for a long time. But anyway, it's still, you can date a lot of stuff. All this wood, you can radiograph date it. And, what's the right word? Carbon date. Because wood has carbon, or is made of carbon. Just like we are. But it was a pretty sophisticated bridge, too. That's what fascinates these archaeologists. And it goes right into the river, and they've actually used scuba in the river down here where it crosses, or up here where it crosses, to dive under the water. And they found a lot of this bridge down there still intact under the water, which is fascinating. And cold water, fresh water can do that, though. If it gets buried in the mud, especially if it gets buried in the mud, it may stay there forever. And some of this is a peat bog, kind of like in the old parts of England and the other areas in that part of the world where they found, mummified remains that were in that peat. And then once they get covered up and all the oxygen's gone, they just sort of preserves them. And that's kind of what happened here. Because they didn't just find wood and stuff in the river bottom. This is just a little bit more about how sophisticated this road was. This was a matting they'd laid over part of it. And this is just more of the support structure it had beneath. But they also found some of this kind of thing on the bottom. And they thought it was all just in one area. And then they've slowly moved out and they keep finding more and more stuff as they moved up and down the river for a wide swath. Like a few kilometers up and down the river from where the initial causeway bridge was. And they found stuff like this, just beds and beds of bones. They think at least 1,400 people died in this battle or massacre, depending on how you look at it. And they could be right. I was reading up on that today, too. I had not heard the word massacre used for this until I was reading last night. And they now think that part of what happened here, the reason they say it was more of a massacre than a battle is, hey, Cherie, welcome in. Hope you're having a good lunch break. I guess that'd be your lunch break, dinner break. What was I saying? Oh, the reason they're saying massacre more than battle is that they think what was going on here was a big trade center, or perhaps there was like a wagon train of people moving around that were traders, and they were attacked by these other warriors, which I suspect were Viking or Nordic, and they had better weapons probably than the traders did, because and I'll show you that in a minute too. The Vikings had shields and more bronze swords, and the guys that they attacked seemed to have a lot of wooden clubs and things of that nature. That they may have, both sides probably had bows, so there was a lot of that too. But I can't remember how many total skulls they found. They found bones enough for at least 1,400 people so far, but I don't think they found that many skulls. Now, this is a weapon from that same Bronze Age period, but this is all wood, and this is what one side was using. And you can kind of see what kind of effect that club would have if you were able to, get in and hit somebody before they cut your arm off. It penetrated the skull, and it penetrated it so hard and so deep that it cracked the skull all the way around to here. And it just caused the whole thing it would have been instant death, pretty much. But wood clubs work too. And then here's some of the Bronze Age type tools and weapons that they found. Different kinds of blades. Some of this is just ornamental. And obviously this is a lance point. This is an arrowhead. This is a smaller arrowhead. Another lance point. I believe this is an axe head, unless it's an ornamental something, but I'm pretty sure that would have been used as an axe head. And I'm not sure about these two pins. I didn't go through and research the numbers that well. So I can't remember if they actually found these in bodies that people had stuck, or if they found these on the ground, which would again tend to point towards traders. And this piece in the middle, I think that's probably somebody's necklace or something. Unless that could be a small shield, and it's just not, it doesn't look, because they used shields that were not great big. They were not great big ones, but kind of small ones. And these are some of the things that the warriors carried or used. There's another axe, bronze axe up at the top corner. There's a couple of wooden mallets that we already saw that one. And then they also found these war clubs that were shaped kind of like a baseball bat. And I wouldn't say flat like a cricket stick or a cricket bat, but they really weren't. They were shaped more like a baseball bat, but they had flat sides, or some of them did. They probably didn't all. And then this brass was very coveted back then because it was bright and shiny. And of course, it looked kind of like gold, even when it wasn't. And gold was, even back then, gold was a sought after thing. Wow, sorry guys. And this is more of the stuff they found. These are like armbands, and I'm not sure if this is just a spike they found with the bridge, but blades and like a sickle blade that you cut, grass or a human with. And I'm not sure what all these things are either. Some of them look like, well, it starts to say bone fragments, but I'm not sure that's what these are. They might be. But anyway, different thing. This one at the bottom is just like I showed you a second ago. This kind of an ornamental piece that they found there. And this piece, they've also found that very similar to this, or just like this, in I think they said like Italy and those kind of Mediterranean countries. And again, that's the ball bat looking one I was talking about, 1A and B. And then this is the mallet. It's kind of like a polo mallet or sorry guys, croquet mallet to me. Now, here's another thing. At first, they just thought these people were, when they first started finding the skeletons, again, they thought it was just a small group and didn't think much about it. But as they dug more and more up, all these marks represent damage. And I can't read that language. I don't know if that's Polish or German or what it is, but this is all the different places where they found injuries to these, skeletons that more or less proved that jeez, guys. They more or less proved that, this was combat. This wasn't just a casual passing. This wasn't a fight in a hockey rink, Chuck. Although some of these injuries might be from a hockey game. Yes, getting hit by a stick. And speaking of, no, I won't speak. Oh, well, yeah, speaking of, I don't know if any of you have looked or know about this, but the other night when I came on, I guess it was Sunday night when I just came on and talked for a little while. That that recording that show got pulled off YouTube because apparently I violated copyrights for the NHL. Remember, I had the hockey game on behind me. I didn't mean to show the hockey game. I wasn't talking about. Well, we did talk, but I wasn't. The hockey game wasn't the focus of the show. But because it showed up on my, somehow they caught it and sent me a nasty gram and said, "Don't do that." And hey, Dave, welcome in. Oh, Tina's got to go out late to the party. Have fun, Tina. So anyway, I knew you were outlaw, Tim. Shh, Mikey. Even Jesse James grew a beard for, to hide. Anyway, so that video got pulled. So I am an outlaw, I guess. And this is more of the stuff they found there, a bunch more of the skulls. And I don't know what they'll, I don't know if they'll repatriate all this stuff after they've, examined it and studied it or what the plan is. I mean, technically, somebody that lives in Europe or this country, one that we probably got ancestors in this pile somewhere. It'd be kind of interesting to see what they do with the bones and everything. I was trying to catch up on the chat here just a second, guys. Okay, anyway, that's and this guy. This is in Germany. Most of the people doing the work over there are German. So there's a lot of papers written about this, and there's a lot of documentation, but almost all of it's written in German, so I couldn't translate. James said, since I have a AP, we need to go as often as we can. Annual pass. Well, I'm a firm believer if you've got an annual pass, use it. And this skull he has up here at the top will come back in a minute because this is an interesting find. And then there's a couple skeletons like this, and they're laid out in positions that they thought at first might have been, burials. And this is an exhibit in their museum that shows kind of that picture I showed you earlier. It's laid out inside this box. But this is how they found everything in situ. That skull that guy had in his hand? Well, there's the inside of that skull. He had been hit in the head by a bronze arrowhead, and it came through. Oh, I don't know, an inch or more better sticking out this side. So, yeah, that was probably instantaneous death there too. Of course, this is that same skull. These two pictures were attached, but I wanted to show this one because it showed the penetration on that arrowhead. Interesting. Hang on a minute, guys. I gotta clear my nose a little bit. Interesting story about that arrowhead. I'll tell you just in a second. I'm gonna turn you off a minute. I'll be right back. Okay. I need to make me a little "be right back" banner to scroll across there when I have to step away from the camera, or in this case, just turn it off so you can't see me. I hate to make you guys listen to me sniff and snort all day. But here's another one of those clubs, and in this one you can see it does look like a baseball bat, but it's like a, I don't know, 4 to 6 sided baseball bat. Can't see all the facets, but I mean that's you can whack somebody with that. I'm here to tell you that would hurt. And this is a little bit more art that's in this guy Dan Davis's novellas. Now I don't know what makes a novel versus a novella. Maybe Carol, can you explain that to me? I didn't look that up, but I know they used to call like Spanish or Mexican soap operas. I thought they were called novella, or that was part of their name, but I'm not sure. But anyway, this guy's written these books, and he's got one that he's giving away on his website. If you sign up on his website, I just downloaded it a while ago. It's a free Kindle book of one of the books in the series he's written about this. Now, the one thing he's got going on here that the scientists have not said so far, or don't necessarily agree with, is that at first they thought maybe these guys were riding horses because they found some injuries that could have occurred if you fell off a horse. But then they figured out after microscopic examination that most of them had occurred because of having a spear lance point stuck through your leg and then twisting it and cracking the bone and that sort of nastiness. So novellas are just shorter than novels. Oh, okay. Well, I wondered about that, like a Mice and Men versus the Grapes of Wrath. That makes sense. I never thought about those two being so different, but you're right, they are. Anyway, so this guy shows them on horses, and maybe some of them were, but they think that the horses were more likely they're more beasts of burden rather than beasts of war. And but it's always a little bit more exciting, I guess, to see a guy swinging a big sword from the back of a horse. I like this picture because this guy over here on the left picture, he has that look of he's intent. He has great intentions to getting this guy. It reminds me of some of the artwork they did in Mulan, in the Mongol warriors or the barbarians, whatever they called them at that time. So back to one of the things I started saying a minute ago about the, I think I was talking about the arrowheads. This group of scientists that were doing a lot of the early excavation work wanted to gather more information about the effectiveness of brass, because they found brass arrowheads and flint arrowheads in this same battlefield. And I mean, one side probably was shooting flint, and the other side, which probably was the, or at least possibly the side that had the most losses, were using flint tips. Now that wasn't why they lost, because the flint tips performed quite well. In fact, for the most part, better than these bronze tips, because flint is sharp as razors. In fact, it's sharper. If you do it right, it's sharper than a razor, sharper than a scalpel. And that bronze will not take an edge. You can kind of put an edge on it, but as soon as it hits something, it just dulls or bends. So they had a guy, a professional bow historian in England or Europe. I think he might have been a German too. They had him do some tests, and they copied the bows and the arrows shaft sizes and whatnot, and they reproduced bronze arrowheads like they found on the battle site, and flint knapped arrowheads like they found there also. And he took both types and strung up a pig carcass, which is about the closest thing you can get to simulating shooting through a human being, which in this case is what they were doing. I'm not advocating anybody go try that. But what he found was that flint arrowheads penetrate far deeper. He shot the pig with a bronze arrowhead like that, and it went in, I don't know, yay far. It went in far enough that he said that would be a good killing shot. I mean, a good kill shot on the battlefield. It'd be into your innards and your vital parts. But he shot it with the flint arrow, and the flint tipped arrow went all the way through and stuck out the other side. And it wasn't because it didn't hit bone or the other one hit bone, because they both were clean shots in that regard. But the flint tipped arrow just cut so much better that it went all the way through. And that's how flint is. It's just it's so incredibly sharp. I think we've probably talked about this before, Mark or I, one or both of us, but they have found obsidian, which is like volcanic glass, arrowheads that were knapped out, and they were actually sharper under an electron microscope, actually have a finer, sharper edge than scalpel blades. And I've actually heard of people using them for surgery. So, and you can resharpen them if you know what you're doing. Okay, moving right along here. Got that part in. And this is the kind of thing they also dug up. They found, armbands and jewelry that was lost here, either on a person or maybe by the, a trader's goods. I guess that's the end. I did stop this short because I knew today I didn't have a lot of time. So there you go. And at this time, I'd be more than happy to field your questions and possibly not be able to answer them. But it's a fascinating story. If you could find that, I know I have found a little bit of stuff about that. Diana, what are you talking about being funny? What was I saying? Well, maybe by 2027, Diana, we can go down. Whoever said that? No, Carol said that. I'd love to go down there when some people are down there and meet up. So anyway, I was fascinated by that show, and the show was made. I think the show was actually made 5 years ago or something, and I believe a lot's been found. But if you look up, and I've got, I didn't show that, darn it. Well, anyway, if you look, well, you won't know if I don't show you, though, will you? Let me show you. I got a page. If you go back and watch the show again, I think you'd see it. There's actually a no. What did I do wrong? Oh, I know what I did wrong. I'm going to try to do this off screen so I don't make everybody sick. I don't know if anybody, well, if it'll matter, but well, I can't do it that way. Why can't I do it that way? Anyway, if you go all the way back, I'm trying to figure out how to speed through the slides. I guess I can't do that. Let me. Oh, there it is. There's a way to do it. At least I think it's work. Okay. Try this one more time. I just have some of the links I used. And I thought I'd throw them up here. And if I don't put them in the show, I don't think you guys could see them. Probably could if you got back, but if you watched my slideshow. But I don't know if I didn't pop it up there. I don't know if it shows up. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, there you go. Maybe you can see them now. That's some of the stuff I use. So if you want to look up any more of this, Wikipedia's got a good article and a lot of references. And then that Dan Davis guy that's got the book writes the novellas about it. If you're interested in reading that kind of stuff, it's probably. I mean, I've not read his books, but I'm thinking they'd probably be somewhat akin to something like the Game of Thrones, but not. I'm not saying he's a. What's that guy's name that writes those books? He's got a bunch of initials like J.R.R. Tolkien, but it's something else. But it's extra R's, I know that. But anyway, hopefully those links work. Oh, yeah, they do. Science Magazine, Smithsonian Magazine, Wikipedia, Dan Davis. And old Dan will hook you up with a free novella right there on the spot. Oh, I'm not live. There I am. I wasn't even on the right page. You guys probably figured. I think I'm not. I think everybody's going to think I'm a little addlepated today. And you're probably right. Any questions? Any suggestions? I'd really like to have done this with Mark because he's studied up on these things. And I sent this to him, and I was really surprised to find out he didn't know about it. I mean, I figured if anybody that I knew had ever read about it, it'd be him, but he didn't know either. So he was doing a little bit of research himself. And the show was on the Science Channel, so I don't know if they have a streaming site or if you can just go to their site and see some of these documentaries or not on the computer. Or maybe your TV for that matter. Anyhow, well, guys, I'm thinking about 10 minutes or so I might shut down. I need to give us time. I need to make sure we get enough time to get on the road here in a little bit. Our saxophone playing real estate guy is supposed to we're supposed to meet him about 1 o'clock. But we're meeting him up the road a few miles, so we got to drive up there and find the place and either be waiting on him or try not to be too late. Because the other thing I've learned about these adventures is you're on a time clock. Once you start the process of viewing, you got to view and get gone. How long is the drive? It shouldn't. The first stop we're going to is, I'm going to say, about 45 minutes from here. Maybe not. Depends on traffic. We can run up most of the way on the interstate. And like I said, we've been trying to find stuff closer to here, but there's just not, the variety is not in our price range. That's the only way I can say it. Well, I can't thank you, Diane. I appreciate that. Brenda, I know Brenda appreciates that too. I don't know if she's still in here, but I don't know. I'd like, you'd think we could find a couple of acres of land that we could buy, and then I don't have a problem with sticking a double wide modular home or mobile home or whatever you want to call it on there now, and a 2-car garage, and then I'd be good as rain if we could do that out in the outside of town a little bit, just out in the countryside. But man, it's hard to find anything like that either. Or when you do find it, it's in a subdivision, so it's a restricted lot that looks like a piece of pie, and it's half an acre or something. I hope so too, Carol. And and I've probably said this before, but I keep talking about a garage. I never thought a garage would be that big of a problem, but apparently either they sell fast or people don't use garages anymore. But I have tools and I have 2 motorcycles that I'd like to keep in the garage. And we'd like to keep our car in the garage because it's still relatively new to us, and it's been in the garage its whole life except when we were out driving. So, we've taken pretty good care of it in that regard, and I'd like to keep it that way. If I have to set it outside, I'm prone to put a cover on it just to keep the paint from fading and that sort of stuff, because we'll probably have that car for, oh, geez, maybe till we die if it's still running. But, my motorcycles and all my tools can't just sit outside in the rain. And I don't have a good place to go store them right now. Phil might help me out there, but he's got his garages, his hangars pretty well stacked. He's got at least 4 motorcycles in his garage. Actually, maybe 5. So he's got more of that, and a couple, and toolboxes. I mean, he started out as a mechanic in aircraft too, until he upgraded to inspector. And he took his tools home, but he still got his tools. And so he doesn't have a lot of room for that. Kelly and Brad, I think, have their garages probably full. Jen and Brian's garage, I believe, is now where she keeps all of her auction stuff. So, it's become, I've made it difficult in my own way. Yeah, me too, Mike. I don't, for a couple of reasons. One being, I just don't like doing what everybody else says I have to do. Goes back to that stubborn thing, I suppose. But is it bad? Is it that bad up there too, Diana? I hate that. I mean, I really do. I knew it was going to be bad. It's nearly the worst time we could have done this. I mean, I heard horror stories a couple of years ago when things were really going bonkers, and hoped then that we'd never have to be in that situation. And here we are. Bye, babe. I'm going to sign off here in a minute. So whenever you're ready, just come on down. We have to move at least 2 hours away from the city to not have any building. Oh, really? Well, down here is a lot. Tennessee's pretty lax on codes and that sort of restrictions, unless you're in a subdivision or something that has homeowners rules and regulations, and then then all bets are off. But I mean, you could put a mobile home or a modular home on just about anything in Tennessee if you got a piece of land. If you have sewer or can put in a septic system, that's probably the biggest restraint once you get out in the country. But that's just about it. I mean, they're pretty lax. People around here don't like zoning laws, so you'd be surprised what they take that as a mandate that somehow they're allowed just to screw up everything, and they do that. Yes, they do, Mike. Yes, they do. Square footage is the big one. Most of them start at 2,500 square feet minimum for a new building. Oh, really? That's what they require, 2,500 for a new building? I'd have to say for the most part, there are places around here that have that, but most of them are under that. Even some of the more gaudy ones don't require that much, but you have to have somewhere around 1,500 at least. Yeah, this house is probably about 1,800. And I never actually measured it and done all the calculations, but half of this is a garage. And so it might not actually be if I took the garage out. But finding something with enough rooms and I'm not ready to downsize. Well, that's what the kids keep telling us, Diana. Hey, that's one of the things Jennifer uses as a reason why we shouldn't move out of town. You don't need a house that big. You just need something small so you don't have to clean it. But there's no consideration there for things. And I realize I don't think we need to get things, but I'm not ready to give up my motorcycles and my tools yet. Even if I hadn't been able to ride in a while, I still have dreams. Your house is 1410. And was yours, is that an old, I mean, would that meet current restrictions, Mike, if you had to replace? Like, God forbid you had a tornado or a fire, could you rebuild that footprint, or would you have to build something bigger? So I'll have to go through zoning. For building permit, it goes by lot size also for square foot. Oh, okay. Gee, so the bigger your lot is, the bigger your house has to be, huh? What are you hearing? Hear them all hollering up there? You think she's calling you? How come you didn't get up and said hi to anybody today? You want to say bye? Huh? You want to tell Carol bye? He's got that glazed over look in his eyes. I'm afraid he's not going to participate. No room for your car, huh? Carol, is that what you're saying? I have a friend of mine that does live that way, Diana. He always said he wanted to be able to pick up all his stuff and move within a couple of hours if he had to move. And so he sleeps on the floor. He just sleeps on something. He can roll it up and tie it up and grab his, like his computer laptop and maybe a TV. I'm not even sure about that. And he's about ready to go. All right, guys, I'm gonna cut and run. I'm gonna shut down, and this way I can be ready when Brenda's ready, and she won't be tapping her fingers or tapping her toes. And try to I need to stretch a little bit. And see if I can't be ready to ride around for a few hours. So everybody have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks for coming in today. Maybe Mark will be back with us next week. Who knows? We might talk about some of this again. I wanted to get into a little bit more detail, but I either don't feel like it, because I do feel that sinus pill may have made me drowsy. Actually, I'm beginning to think it did. I probably got to drive too. That's not good. Anyway, thanks everybody, and take care. Maybe I'll talk to some of you this week. I don't know about Thursday night. Again, I'm probably not going to plan it, but I might throw something out there. I was going to be on this past Thursday night, and I came home, and we got home about 5:30 or so, and I thought I got time to put together a show real quick. By the time I realized, I hadn't done it all, and it was already after 7. Brent says, "You're going to do a show, you're going to hurry." So I just didn't bother, but I wanted to. So I'll see. We'll see what comes up. We'll see where we're at in this monster chase here. So anyway, see you guys. Thanks again.